Alrighty folks, next drill. If I'm looking at a band, I'm going to be using this to create what's called a joint distraction. So working on my joint mobility and my joint health. Specifically, we're not talking about working on the muscles, we're talking about working on the joint itself. So when you have a joint, let's say that this is my thigh bone, this is my femur, going up into my hip and into my pelvis. It is surrounded by some connective tissue, like a tendinous kind of structure that forms a cast around the area, and that's called a joint capsule. You have a joint capsule basically around all of your synovial joints, so around all of your moving joints, every joint that you basically think of when you think of a joint. Now, if you've seen my video about using a foam roller, using massage balls, and how that works, I've talked a lot about how dehydration of tissues is a mechanism by which your body will create stiffness when it needs to. So whether it's a case of you're injured, you just had like a big impact injury and things need to be stuck in a position so you don't move around as much and it can heal a bit better short term. If you do something like sit down for 30 hours a day, 10 days a week, your body's going to get frozen in that position and you're sitting down, so your hip bones are being rammed up your pelvis that entire time with your whole body weight crashing down on, or most of your body weight. So that's going to help the joint capsules to freeze into position and become very non-moving. Now, joint capsule dysfunction can contribute to over 60% of your total range of motion. So if you have joint issues, that can display a massive dysfunction in your range of motion. You can't go as far, you can't have nearly as much strength or nearly as much mobility through ranges, right? So you can work on the muscles all you want to, it won't necessarily help, necessarily. So how do we address this? We use a band. So this is a big resistance band. It is not, and it's well used and loved, as you can see. I've had this for about a decade, literally about a decade now. It's 2024, I got this in about 2014. And you want to use these, not the surgical hose resistance bands that are really cheap and don't really do much. But what I'm gonna do, you want to anchor this by wrapping it around something that is absolutely solid, something that you would never pull over in a million years, no matter how much you pulled on it, like this, right? So don't put it around like a kitchen table leg, that'd be silly. You can see my videos going through the actual drills about how to wrap your wrist around this. I'm not gonna go over that now. But you can use this, I'm just gonna show this using this on an arm. You can see my other videos about using it on your ankles and your hips and other parts. This is just an overview of the guidelines of it and how it works. So I got it wrapped around. Notice that my hand is open because it is relaxed. I'm not gripping the band. You will also notice that my elbow remains locked out because I'm not pulling the band. So I'm not gripping it, instead I'm relaxing. The reason why I'm using an elastic band is that as I pull it away from center, it is trying to come back to center itself. So now it's pulling on me. If I'm relaxed here, the band is pulling on my shoulder, right? So what I can do here is just simply sit in position. My front foot is bracing my posture, but otherwise I'm just chilling. And I feel a little bit of a stretch through the backside of my shoulder, but otherwise it doesn't really feel like much of anything. It just feels like I'm rotating my arm in place, and that's exactly how it should feel. But here it's pulling on my wrist, it's pulling on my elbow, and it's pulling on my shoulder and my ribs as well, helping to mobilize the joint capsule itself. So when you do this, the elasticity, that pulling, will actually pull on the joints and the joint capsules themselves. So as you move around in position, it helps to move and hydrate those tissues so that you can move a lot better. And again, you can use this around your ankles, your hips, shoulders, elbows, wrists specifically if you want to. I've got other content that you can check out to see the specific drills. How long do I want to do this for? About 2 minutes. And I always encourage people, do just one side at a time. If I was going to be testing my overhead position, how can I reach overhead? Test your position, do this on one arm, retest your position, see the difference. So that's X amount of time has passed by, and you will feel, if you just do one side at a time, really stand up here and just feel, this feels so much different. This feels light and fluffy. This feels tighter and heavier, and it's such a distinctive sensation. So if I take my arms up overhead, so can we see any difference in my arms? Maybe a little bit. It does feel like it goes a little bit further. And what about range? I feel like I can actually reach my hand down a little bit lower, maybe just a centimeter down lower. So you get that extra range through the arm. You're actually a little bit longer. You're opening up those joints and things feel so much looser. Things can move around a lot better. Also helps out massively if you've got an old injury and things have just kind of been stuck, being really stiff and tight for a long time. That's quite an easy, relatively passive way to help to open up the old injured joints. If you suffer with chronic pain, chronic injuries, athletic injuries, I have got you covered. My name is Ethan Hammond, and I am a strength and rehab specialist. I work with people who want to return to sport and fitness, but feel that they can't because of pain and injuries. I've helped people with conditions such as lower back pain, ACL tears, shin splints, neck pain and chronic headaches, and so many more things. Now, a lot of you will be going through things like this, like what I just listed above, and you're saying that you cannot train anymore. Bullshit. You have got to train, and you've got to train right. Train or complain, that is the way this works. Now, I work in person in Southampton, England, but I have online services as well if you're a bit further out. And I also offer free consultations to get you started with a free game plan and strategy for getting out of pain. All you have to do is to send me a text or a WhatsApp message to 07 305 231 339, and I will personally get back to you in the next 24 hours to get you started on the road to proper recovery. If you are serious about leveling up and making real change, this is how you start.